we invite the next person, Mr. Nikhil Desai, to introduce himself and then introduce the next speaker to all of us. Over to you, Nikhil.
Hi, everyone. This is Nikhil Desai, an international speaker, motivator, and trainer for the last 28 years. And I've been doing my sessions all over the world for more than 250,000 participants. Let me congratulate Grey Cells. Let me congratulate Ashish. Let me congratulate Dr. Raju Bhatia and the wonderful speaker, Dave Crane, who has kickstarted such a wonderful event celebrating 25 years of Grey Cell. I'm very happy because as a motivational speaker, I have interacted with most of you people in the past and look forward to taking this interaction to the next level. The next speaker that we have today is also an international keynote speaker. He's the master trainer and founder of CEO of People Builders, a leading supplier of training and HR solutions throughout Australia, New Zealand, Asia, Africa, UK, and the Middle East, right? So Ashish, did you want to say anything after I introduce myself? I think that might, or did you want me to introduce him, Herbert, right away? Yeah?
Yeah.
Was there a AV of mine that was to be displayed?
That you had to display. Now I think we can ask Grant to start his session. We are already a little late.
Okay.
And please mute yourself.
Oh, okay. So let me complete Grant's introduction, and that is that he's also the trainer and mentors trainers and coaches all over the world, more than Fortune 500 companies. And I asked Grant, what's something unique about you that you'd like me to share with the audience? And he said, I am an ordinary guy with an outstanding wife, 5 lovely children, and 3 extraordinary grandchildren. He is announced and awarded as the Emotional Intelligence Speaker and Trainer of the Year. Over to you, Grant.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully you can all hear me. And I know we are very much behind time. So I'm just looking at the clock now because I had my timings all worked out in my head. And now I need to make sure that I stay on track so that we can keep this going. So welcome to everybody. Thank you to everybody who's already been thanked. And in the interest of time, I'm going to get into it. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the neurobiology of change and agility. So here's the thing. When we look at change and when we look at agility and when we look at, all these different things that they teach us in MBAs and, all the training and development that we do, one of the biggest challenges that I see is that we get straight into the what. We get straight into the list of things that we need to do. And we miss out on understanding the why. So what I'm hoping to do for you today is just to get your thinking before we get into some other great speakers. And it was great to hear Dave kick us all off. And I'm sort of, dovetailing in behind him and doing a similar thing. I'm just warming you up with a different type of thinking that you need to be able to get the most benefit out of what it is that you're going to learn from these fantastic speakers today. So I love neuroscience. I am a neuroscience nerd. Yes, I have just been named the Emotional Intelligence Speaker and Trainer of the Year for 2020. And then I got back from my last overseas trip on the 2nd of March. And then I haven't been able to go anywhere. So just like you, Dave, I've been doing everything virtually. I was actually quite blessed also to be in Mumbai in February at the WHRD Congress and did a keynote address there as well. But everything's changed. And I keep using that word change because when I say it, to a lot of people, it has a massive effect. We're all going through a lot of change right now. We're all going through to this new normal. We're all pivoting and all these buzzwords. But what I want to do is help us to understand what actually goes on in our brain and in our body when we go through change, and give you a little bit of an understanding. Now, I've got 20 minutes to speak, or about, less than that now. So obviously I'm not going to be able to give you everything that I know about neuroscience, but what I'm going to give you are some key understandings. The first thing about neuroscience, by the way, and that's the same for any science, is that it's exactly that. It's a science. So it's what we understand now. And we, in fact, understand more about the brain in the last 10 years than for all the other years before that. Because now with fMRIs and all the imaging we can do, we don't have to wait for someone to die and then cut their brain up to get an understanding. So all these people in your teams, and I know that's you, and I'm talking to you right now, I want you to get it for you, not just for those that you lead. All those people have a brain, and they have a body, and they have a nervous system, and things happen throughout change. So let me just take you through some of those things. So the first thing we need to understand is that we've been programmed over the years as we have grown. I'm 58 years of age, and I have been conditioned, and I've conditioned myself. And inside my brain, I have, like a hard drive on your computer, I have certain things in there, and I have a cache that can quickly bring to the surface things that I have stored, that I've told my brain are important, down in the striatum and other parts of the brain. I'll try not to get too technical today. And because of this, we are then, people are saying something about need to see full screen. I'm not sure why. You should be able to see the slides. You don't need to see me. Just, you can see me a little bit, but you need to just see the pictures, much better than seeing me. So we've got those things in there, and we are conditioned. So we've got to learn how to change that conditioning. We've got to unlearn certain things. And even though I use that term, we're not actually able to unlearn. We've got to just learn new things that become the new normal, and they become more powerful than the things that we had before. And there's something that we understand in neuroscience now called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity means that we can rebuild the conditioning that we have in our brain. Right now, you and I have about 86 billion, I don't know who counted them or how they came up with that number. We've got about 86 billion neurons in our brain. And the neural pathways that are formed connect from one neuron to another by what's called a synaptic connection. And that's what this picture is here. So we're not actually able to regrow those neurons and neural pathways, but what we're able to do is recreate and build new synaptic connections, so that now when I have this happen, instead of doing that, I can now do something differently. And I want to teach you, as I go through this, some principles of how we're able to stack everything in our favor so that people can actually learn what we need them to learn. Just as Dave was showing us there's many new things that we have to learn. So we've got to understand how the brain works so that we can do that. We've got to understand the reward circuits that are in our brain. There are neurotransmitters that go from one neuron to another neuron in that synaptic connection. And that's what takes the information from one to the other. And there's a reward circuit in our brain. One of those neurotransmitters is dopamine, and it's like crack cocaine. Not that I've actually tried that, but it's like, it's got that addictive effect where we want pleasure. We want that dopamine. So we do comfort activities and we do things that are fun. So we need to understand that. We need to understand that, yes, we are involved in motivating people, but there's a couple of different types of motivation. There's extrinsic motivation, which is from the outside, where we dangle the carrot or we wave the stick and we say, do this or else, or do this and you can have that. And here's the thing, studies have shown that extrinsic motivation has a very limited life, has a very limited ability to be able to get the results that you want, because what the human being needs is intrinsic motivation. We need to have a purpose. We need to have autonomy. We need to have mastery. We need to be able to bring that motivation ourselves. And I want to show you how we're able to do this. Now, I know I'm going really, really fast. So make sure that you connect with me if you're like me, you want to know more about this stuff, and I'm continually learning, so I'm happy to pass that on. But I've got this minute period of time now where I've been given to do this, and I've got to keep going through it. The second thing we've got to understand is language is vitally important. So here's the thing. You heard me at the start using the word change. And for some people, the word agile has now a connotation and it's a buzzword. So what we need to do is be mindful of the fact that when some people hear the word change, it actually does something. Let me just grab my little friend here. It does something in their brain. It actually creates in here some sort of a reaction that's not pleasurable. It's not great. When someone says change, some people feel, oh no, big overwhelm happens. So what I like to do when I'm working with my team, when I'm working with the people who I have as clients, I like to avoid using words that can evoke that sort of a response. So instead of telling people that everything has to change, what we can do is we can go, okay, let's tweak that a little bit. Let's adjust things slightly. Let's go down this way for a while. And look, trust me, try it. The way people respond when we talk like that is totally different than if we use the word change. So language is vitally important. Internal language, the way we speak to ourselves, is number one importance. And the way we speak to our people, the way that we intrinsically motivate our people is vitally important. And the other thing that I need us to understand, and I'm going to take you through a process here, is that we need exactly that. We need a process. You see, there's a couple of parts of the brain I want to talk about. So there's our limbic brain, our emotional brain, or where a lot of the emotions are formed and stored, and in the hippocampus and the amygdala and all those things that you've heard of before. And then we've got the prefrontal cortex at the front of the brain, which is the executive command center. And depending on whether or not the limbic brain traps the information down in the emotion of things, as to whether or not our prefrontal cortex gets to regulate the emotion. And that's all the work that I do in emotional intelligence, and I can help you with that. But what we can do in our language is make sure that we use logic. So we light up the part of the brain that handles the logic. So I've developed a process that I'm going to share with you. Yes, it is proprietary, but you know, the concept is what I want you to get today, so that when you navigate change for yourself and for others, you take into consideration the neurobiology that I've quickly talked about. And there's so much more that I could have covered, but the time doesn't allow. So let me just take you through a 4-part process, just like these stepping stones on the screen, that you, considering what I've taught you, can utilize in the change process, in getting people to be more agile and flexible. So the first part of the process is to evaluate. Now, I use this process whether I'm doing a training, whether I'm doing a coaching, whether I'm doing a program for a Fortune 50 company, doesn't matter what it is, or whether I'm working one-on-one. because that's what we all are. We're all trainers, we're all mentors, we're all coaches. Some of us do that for a living, others do that as part of your role. So here's what we've got to do. We have to evaluate what this person, and let's just talk about ourselves. We've got to evaluate what change means to us and to the other people. We've got to evaluate whether or not there's a positive thought around change or negative. And we've got to evaluate, if we're doing that with a team, more than just doing it in a group. We have to understand those things about our team. One of the greatest things that I love about evaluation, and just like Gray Cells, I do a lot of psychometric and neurometric assessments. The only value that they have is in the not so much the quantitative, but the qualitative. So the best way to evaluate is to talk to your people, to communicate, to ask them. So now in that first step, we've evaluated where people are in their mindset, in their thinking, and therefore we can predict behavior. So the next part of the process then, the second E, is to engage them. Engage them in the process. Engage them in the change. Now, here's the thing. What most people do, what most organizations do, is they engage you in their why. What we need to do is engage each individual in their reason for changing. What's in it for them, so that that dopamine and the serotonin, the other neurotransmitters of pleasure are working in that person, so that they feel pleasuring emotions. It's just like an Olympic athlete. They stand on that dais having that medal put around their neck with their flag of their country going up behind them and the national anthem playing many, many, many times, many hundreds, thousands of times before they ever get there. And it's their own reason, their own why, their own mental conditioning around future pacing that and around thinking pleasurably and positively about the change and the work they've got to do to get there that gets them there. And once again, that is intrinsic motivation. So we've evaluated and now we've engaged. And these two steps are what I find are missing in most programs in organizations. They just want to get into the third part, and that's just tell them what we're doing. And that's where the challenge lies. You see, when we evaluate when we evaluate and engage, we have people ready to change. We've got them to the start line. Now, this image here is not telling you to hit them with the hammer. What this is, education is about giving them the tools that they need, handing them all the information that they need. And that doesn't just mean a spreadsheet or a project plan that says we're doing this now. What I'm talking about is those individual things that we've learned about our team, i.e., where we have team members that need more certainty. They need to understand process. They've got a different change strategy to others in your team. I'm a person of change who I change before the change even is needed. I was putting together online courses and doing virtual things with my business way before COVID happened. I didn't know it was going to happen, but not everyone's like me. So we've got to make sure that we hand them the tools. And we've got to make sure that we hand them the tools along the way. And yes, we can hurry up for the next session. I'm still going to use my time though, if that's okay. Someone's just asked that. So that's the third section. The fourth is to empower people. And how do we empower our people? It's like a Sherpa taking us to the top of the mountain. We need to become that for our people. We need to give them an environment that has two things. We need to be able to give them support so that they can make the incremental change. We cannot expect people to change immediately. when we understand the neurobiology, this lets that happen. We must give people the ability to make incremental change so that they can rebuild new synaptic connections and have neural pathways which lead you to the behavior that you now want. The second thing that we need when we empower people is to give them accountability and measurement. We need to check in. We need to make sure that we keep them accountable for what they say they're going to do, and then encourage them and motivating them using their own intrinsic motivation, the things that they're moving towards, to remove those roadblocks. So in essence, the neurobiology of change is vitally important to understand before we get into the what and we get into the program and we just give them the change. And I'd invite Nikhil to come back now and moderate. And
Yes.
I believe I've got some time left to answer any questions. So back to you, Nikhil.
Thank you so much, Grant. That was wonderful. Yes, I would like to ask one question, and that is, how do people take these ideas and employ them in their teams and their organizations? Because ultimately, that's the most important thing that people want to know. So would you be sharing some thoughts on that?
Yeah, certainly. So the first thing is, it's all about communication. What I see so often is someone will, see something like I've done today and they'll go, well, that's amazing. I'm going to go and do that. And then they don't tell anybody else. And it's really strange that people think, what's happened to Grant? Why is he doing this? So communication is the key. The second key is learning. There's way more to learn about this. I've just given you a little tiny bit of this today.
Yes.
And certainly, the programs that I do help people to go deeper in that. But definitely communication and learning are vital to be able to take this into your workplace.
Fantastic. And if you can give me a one-line answer, what part does emotional intelligence play in all this? Just a quick line answer. Yeah.
Definitely. So as I explained, in the brain, the emotional brain and the emotional regulation can actually hinder people from using the logical process that I've just been teaching, and we want them to utilize. So that's where emotional intelligence comes in.
Fantastic answer. Let me sum up quickly, Grant, all the lovely sessions that you had and all the takeaways that you have for so many thousands of people across the world. 1, focus on their why and not yours. Very important. Point 1. 2, intrinsic motivation is far more effective than extrinsic motivation. And we need to all to be aware of that. 3, it takes time to rewire brain conditioning. So you must ensure there is an environment that is good for incremental change. And 4th, language is powerful and can help you or harm you in your quest for change. Fantastic with these lovely lessons that we've all learned. Congratulations, Grant. And thank you so much for being part of this memorable event. Over to the moderator.
Thank you very much. And just connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks, team.
Yes.
Thank you, Nikhil, and thank you, Grant.